You're listening to Boomers Today with your host, Frank Sampson.
Well, welcome to Boomers Today. I'm your host, Frank Sampson. And of course, each week we bring you important and useful information on issues facing baby boomers, their parents, and other loved ones. And I know I do this every week, but I just need to thank all of you for all your support. Our listeners are growing each and every day. We do this organically, and it's because of you. You share information with your friends and family, share some of our podcasts, and many of you listen to the show on your app, on your phone, when you go maybe for your walk in the morning. Many listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, a lot of different podcast stations that we're on. Of course, some of you go directly to our website at boomerstodayradio.com. So again, thank you so much. And I know you're sharing this information because it's valuable information, and we're not going to disappoint you today at all either. We have with us Amy Temperley. Amy, for over 30 years, has committed her work to improving the lives of older adults in some form or fashion, and has served caregivers, individuals with dementia and disabilities, and nonprofit leaders. Amy and her husband, Damien, founded Aging is Cool in 2016 with the dream to create smart, engaging, fun activities for older adults, being passionate about issues related to living a full life, active aging, and ageism. In 2020, Aging is Cool partnered with Heart and Soul Care to create and launch A Mighty Good Time, a website and one-stop shop for engaging activities for older adults nationwide. Amy, thank you so much for joining us on Boomers Today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so lots to talk about today, and certainly we're going to talk about your website, which I've been to. It's great. A lot of great information in there. But before we get to that, maybe you could I'm always interested, especially somebody like yourself that's been in the field for a while. I won't tell anybody how long. Oh, we already did. We told them 30 years. I guess we did give it away. But maybe you could, talk about how things have changed, with older adults today versus, years ago, maybe when you got into the business, and since then, how are things changed?
Yeah, and it's okay for you to say how many years, because I'm trying to embrace my own aging, right?
Yeah, that's right. We all do that. Right. Yeah, exactly.
I started my career as a young social worker back in the 90s, and if you look back into that time period, there weren't very many resources for older adults. At that time, you didn't really even have home health care. It was just sort of emerging. Nursing homes were your only option. Assisted living, memory care, those types of things were unheard of. But also it was probably, and I may be making some assumptions here, but if I think about my grandmother and other people of her generation and her friends, they didn't obviously live as long. And their levels of activity were different because health wasn't as good. And so as health outcomes are improving and people are living longer, their health span is starting to tie in with their lifespan. And so we're seeing people live well into their 90s, maybe even soon into their hundreds comfortably. And people are looking for ways to engage. If you retire at 65 or even at 70, you could potentially live 20 or 30 more years. And so people are looking for things to do, ways to stay active and healthy, and to find meaning and purpose in their lives. Once you give up your job, sometimes it's difficult to find that. So we call it the new older adult. Basically, it's completely different. It's not the rocking chair generation that many of us knew in the past.
No, it's interesting, and I'm right in that age group of the boomer generation, right smack in the middle, and I kid with some of my friends similar age, and we look back at pictures of even our parents and grandparents, and we look to see how old they were during that photo from years ago. And you would guess, in some cases, especially when I look at pictures of my grandparents, and it looks like they are 90 or 80, but they're in their 50s or 60s at the time. It's just a different, things have changed. And I'm just going by a photograph, but I think things have changed all along, right? And maybe it's because back then they people weren't living into their 90s or triple digits. I mean, is that, I don't know. It just seems things have changed, I guess.
Completely. We didn't have the health and the resources that we do today. And it is a completely different generation. If you look at, how like you said, how your grandparents faced the world and what they were looking for in their later years, it's really different. I know so many older adults who are still working and thriving and engaged in their world well into their 90s. And
Yeah.
you just didn't see that before. And it may have been because they weren't able to be healthy, but it also, I think, is a change in the perspective as baby boomers are coming into this generation and hitting their 65 mark. They're looking at their lives and saying, hang on a minute, it's not time to sit down or lay down or watch TV all day. It's time to actually embrace the things we've learned and who we are, and step forward into a new phase of life where you can do what you want, which is kind of exciting.
Right. And people are working longer too. I mean, it used to be that when you turned 65, you were done. You got the gold watch, you were done. Now people are, working longer, not necessarily that they have to. In some cases, they may have to, but just they want to,
Well,
So,
and with more flexibility too. I mean, for Aging is Cool, we actually hire a lot of older adults to work with us, and most of them are retired, but they still want to have a little bit of supplementary income for travel. They want to be able to continue to give back and do things that are enjoyable and have a reason to get up every day. And so you see a lot of people that are just working as they want to instead of those, 60-hour-a-week work weeks.
right, right. So, what do you feel are the key components of an active and healthy life?
We've always talked about fitness and health and nutrition and all of those different things. But as we're doing more and more research, and there's some great, new studies that are coming out around the country around what are the really important things as we get older. And of course, fitness is always going to be one of them, moving your body in any way that you can. The second one is brain health. We've learned that you can actually create new brain cells and stimulate your brain your entire lifespan. We did not know this, many years ago. So focusing on that as a core component. The social piece, we've seen, social isolation has always been a problem in the older adult population, but even more substantially during COVID. And so the way that we connect with other people is crucial. The third one or the fourth one, is having purpose and meaning in your life. That place of something to get up for every day. Maybe it's a hobby or something that you love, or even a sense of spirituality or something that you really connect to. And then the last part that I think is really about sort of that gratitude, joy, humor piece of the puzzle. It's about trying to have a positive attitude, embrace what you can. And so you kind of have to think about all five of those components and how they roll into each other to have a really full and active, healthy life.
Yeah. Socialization is huge, right? I mean, loneliness in our work, with the senior population is, it's an epidemic, I guess, if you want to call loneliness an epidemic, and being isolated. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I think epidemic is actually an okay word to use. There are, other countries that are, thinking about these things and experiencing it as well, or really are actually putting in ministries of health, at the UK and Canada and Australia that are actually aimed at social isolation. And there's a lot of programs here in the US that are coming up as well. It's got impacts beyond what you would even begin to realize. You are physically less healthy if you are not engaged with others. Your cognitive abilities decline when you're not connected with other people. Your mental health declines. So I frequently like to talk about, if you do nothing else out of those 5 things that I listed around, staying, healthy, is to be social with other people. It makes your mood better. It is good for your brain to interact with other people. You're more likely to be up and moving around. So, just adding in that social component into your life can actually help impact all those other areas that I was just mentioning.
So what do you say to people, that maybe, going to exercise and going to what we call the gym? I don't think they call it a gym anymore, but, to go do their workout, fitness, but they don't like doing that. They don't want to go out and, do that. What do you say to those people?
Well, first, let me just admit that I'm one of those people, and I'm married to a fitness instructor, and I don't like to work out.
Right.
And, really the key for any of this as you age is to just move your body. It's to take every opportunity to walk, to be up and down, to not sit too long. My mother has some physical disabilities, and she walks when her food is in the microwave, and she walks up and down the counter. And if that's the best she can do all day, then that's perfectly fine. So, finding those opportunities to move your body, and also to find something that's enjoyable for you. Not everybody likes to go to the gym and lift weights, but there's tons of really cool, interesting programming out there to get you to move. That's fun. And it could be dance, it could be yoga, it could be, there's a program called Bingo Size where you can do fitness and bingo at the same time. There's just so many opportunities. Yeah, it's actually evidence-based. It's proven to actually improve your health. So finding every opportunity to move as much as you can, even in little ways. Get your 10,000 steps, get your little Fitbit and start, counting. And then add in a little bit of strengthening, even if it's with, vegetable cans in front of the TV, soup cans, get your muscles stronger so that we can, we want to prevent falls. That's a big one. So heart health and falls, I'd say, are pretty crucial here.
Great. So, Amy, we're going to take a real quick break, I promised, and then we're going to come back and, I want to learn more and give you the opportunity to talk to people more about A Mighty Good Time and, aging is cool. I mean, all of that. You're doing a whole bunch of things. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that. All right?
Sounds good.
Great. So do you need an advocate for you or your loved one? Well, Senior Care Authority is a senior placement and elder care consulting organization that has a national network of professionally trained and experienced local advisors to assist families in determining the right path for your loved ones. They'll discuss various long-term care options, whether it's in-home care, assisted living, memory care, nursing, or if you just need an advocate to get advice from, a local Senior Care Authority advisor can help you now. So for a free 30-minute consultation with an advisor in your area, contact Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231, or you could go directly to their website at www.seniorcareauthority.com, and you could find an advisor in your area. We're back with Amy Temperley, who is the co-founder of Aging is Cool, and we're going to learn more about Aging is Cool and mighty good time and all that. So maybe, Amy, before we get into a little more details on that, you could just share with our listeners how they could learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, so we have a company called Mighty Good Time, and it is a website that is a one-stop shop for older adult activities nationwide. So you can find in-person, online, and phone-based activities from, I say around the country, but we have some new international providers that are on our site as well. And there's right now well over 100 different activity host companies, businesses, and individuals that have great things that you can access. And you can go to the site. It's custom designed for older adults, so it's really easy to use. And you can pick when you'd like to do an activity. We have all different kinds of categories of activities, from fitness and travel, lifelong learning, crafts, music. For your caregivers out there, there's support groups, grief programming, so a little bit of everything. And it is free for you to search. And it is also free for people who are offering these types of programs to post. So our one mission has really been to help people access things to do, whether that's out in their community or at home, for whatever reason. Maybe you just prefer to be at home, or maybe you can't get out, drive like you'd like to. There are thousands and literally thousands of activities on the site. And it's a combination of free and paid events. You should be able to find a healthy mix of both. So if money is an issue, you're going to find plenty of free programming as well.
Right.
So,
And that's
amightygoodtime.com.
is it amightygoodtime.com? Is that it?
It is amightygoodtime.com.
Great. Okay, good. So, yeah, so anyway, you kind of answered what I was going to ask you about, about A Mighty Good Time, but maybe you could talk about, are most of it online? Is it things that you happen to know about in that individual's community? Are you actually pulling information in from various communities onto the site as well?
Some of both. Right now, we have lots and lots of virtual and phone-based programs. Obviously, we launched A Mighty Good Time during the pandemic, and that really was all that was out there. There wasn't much happening in terms of live events. Right now, we're currently building the in-person activities, so we're reaching out to communities around the country, big cities, and bringing in folks to post, whether that be libraries, senior centers, museums, arts. So we're doing lots of research. If you get on our site and you do research for an in-person activity and you can't find something in your area, there's actually a little message box that will let you send us a message to tell us which town you live in, and then we actively go look for things to do in those areas. So we're still building, but if you like the virtual and the phone base is interesting too. For those who don't like Zoom and don't like the computer stuff, there's some really great phone-based programming out there that you just listen in. So really interesting stuff.
That's great. So explain the difference. I know you started the company with your husband, Aging is Cool. And then now you have A Mighty Good Time. Are they different kind of sites, or kind of working together now as one?
They're actually separate. So we obviously support each other a lot. Aging is Cool was my husband and I. We do recreational activities here in the Austin, Texas area with residential communities and senior centers in our area. So we provide classes and instructors to go in and teach things. And then A Mighty Good Time was co-created with my co-creators, Jen and Ian. And we just kind of found a gap together, and they had some skills and I brought some skills. And so we launched A Mighty Good Time as its own business, and are just excited to really promote it and get it out there, because it is a free tool. We want people to be able to find what they want to do. We don't want anybody to be bored ever if they don't want to be.
Right. Yeah. I know you talk quite a bit about for the older adults to kind of create a plan for an active life. Talk to us about that. I mean, you got some going on. I don't know if I want to do that, but I'm sure it's not too difficult. But why don't you talk about how they go and create a plan, best way to do that for themselves?
Yeah. We often make a plan for our retirement or a plan for our finances. We might even make a health plan, but looking at our aging process and looking at how we do this as well and as healthily as possible, it takes a little bit of thought. And it doesn't really take a ton of thought. Like you said, you could probably do it in an hour if you sat down and thought about it. But really trying to figure out, how do I incorporate these 5 elements into my life? How do I get fitness in there? How do I get brain health, socialization? How do I find some purpose and meaning in our life? And one way you can do that is to sit down and really make some notes and give some thoughts around, like, what did I used to like to do when I was a kid? Who was I as a child, and what did that feel like? And then think about your midlife and what was that like, and what were experiences? What are some things you've always wanted to do but you never took the time to do? And then think about who you are now, and how you've brought all those pieces of yourself to the table. And then hop on a site like A Mighty Good Time, or hop on, the internet, and type in these things that you're interested in, and just dive in, be curious, and see what resonates with you. Not everything will. And then schedule it. That's your plan piece, right? Am I being social once a week? Am I moving my body at least 30 minutes 3 times a week? Am I, doing something that makes me laugh and give me great joy a few times a month? Starting to think about that so that you don't forget about it, and that you don't pass it by, and you don't end up sitting in front of the TV for long hours, or playing Candy Crush, as I sometimes do on my computer,
Right.
sort of, wasting time that could be spent doing something that's good for you and gives you great joy and connects you to other people.
Great, great. I want to talk about a pretty serious subject. Not that what we're talking about isn't serious; it's all serious. But ageism. Ageism is something that is a huge, huge problem within our society. And I know that you are pretty passionate, about that. But maybe you could talk further about that, and maybe explain what ageism is, and for those that don't know exactly what it is, and what we can do as a society to help improve upon it.
Yeah, ageism has always been an issue. So I've worked with older adults for 30 years, and it's very subtle. I think unlike some of the other, isms, it can sometimes be very social or subtle. And I don't know if anyone's ever read any books by Ashton Applewhite, who wrote the book This Chair Rocks, but it talks a lot about ageism and how it is really insipid in our society. And you'll see it. I mean, even I'm, luckily I own my own business, but as a 50-year-old woman, it would be hard for me to go back out and get involved in the workforce and get hired again, right? That's a subtle thing, is that people don't think we're as productive. There are a lot of stereotypes about getting older, about our cognitive abilities, or our physical abilities, or even our, ability to contribute to the world. And one of the things I found really, really interesting with Ashton Applewhite's work, and also a new author that's just come out, her name is Becca Levy, and she's just published a book in the last week about this, is that one of the worst offenders with ageism is actually ourselves. And it's the way we treat ourselves, and it's the way we view ourselves as we get older. And Becca Levy, she's a psychologist and epidemiologist at Yale School of Public Health, and she actually has done research that shows that ageism can actually negatively impact your own mental and physical health. So people who think negatively about their own aging will decline faster and live shorter lives than those who view it in a positive light. So I haven't had the opportunity to read the whole book. I've read excerpts from it, but I'm guilty of this, and I'm actually concerned about it for myself. And so despite the fact that I've done this work for such a long time and have great respect for older adults, I don't necessarily respect myself as I get older. And I make judgments about how I look, or how my physical abilities are, or what I'm able to do as an older woman. And I think we all have to work on that. Put that in your plan. How do I be less ageist to myself?
Well, talk about the importance then of meaning and purpose in someone's life. What are the ways we can create or embrace them?
We all need a reason to get up every day. Something that is joyful, something that makes you smile, something that maybe makes you feel valued in the world. One way we can do that and create meaning and purpose in our life is by giving back to others. which was also very proven to be good for your health, right? Is to do nice things for other people. But there's no better people than folks that are retired and have extra time to go volunteer and contribute in their community, or serve on a board of directors, or be a mentor, or finding a joy like gardening or arts and crafts, or even just reading. If you just love to read, it doesn't have to be a big lofty goal, but just that one thing that gives you drive and purpose to keep going every day. Because when you lose that, that's when the depression seeps in, and that's when the sedentary behaviors seep in, and we start to see decline.
Sammy, we just got a moment left. Great information. Just anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Any words of wisdom?
I try new things. I can talk all day about all these different components of aging well and active aging. I just would encourage people to go on an adventure. Be curious about your life. Try something new. I learned how to do woodworking during the pandemic, of all things. I bought a lathe. Completely bizarre. Learned how to do woodworking on watching YouTube videos. And it has become one of the joys of my life. And I never had a hobby prior to this. Explore. Go see what's out there. If it even gives you slight interest, check it out. Find ways to engage with your world.
Great advice. And Amy, thank you. Amy Temperley, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, check it out, amightygoodtime.com. Check it out. Everybody be safe out there. We'll talk to everybody real soon.
You've been listening to Boomers Today with Frank Sampson. To learn more about today's show, visit boomerstodayradio.com and join us next time for another edition of Boomers Today.